Morning all. Hope you guys are having a great Monday so far. I wanted to come to you really quickly and just give you a few quick reminders, a few quick things to think about, especially as you finish up the research paper that is due tomorrow. So let's go into the course itself. So you'll note, again, this is the home page, that your research paper is due tomorrow. The research essay is due tomorrow the 23rd by noon, and that is a firm deadline. I have to have them in by noon so that I can begin going through and grading them and getting your grades finalized and everything, because your grades for this class are actually due by this upcoming Friday the 26th at noon. So it doesn't give me a ton of time to get your work, to get this final paper graded and to get your feedback to you. So do keep that in mind. Also, one of the things I wanted to bring to your attention in my last announcement is the rubric for the research paper. So there is a rubric. I would encourage you to go back to this announcement from the 18th and take a look at the rubric, just so you'll know how you're going to be assessed for this upcoming paper. I do want to let you know that unlike other assignments for this class, your research papers I will be reading and assigning a grade to. I will not be giving any comments on them. Now, should you ever want comments on them in the future after the class is over or something like that, all you have to do is let me know. I can go back through and reread it and give you comments that way. But again, I won't be actually giving you detailed feedback on this assignment. I'll just be reading it and assigning a grade, and then moving forward to finishing up calculating grades. Okay, so let's go back to the guidelines for this assignment. A couple of things I want to remind you of really quickly. Again, do keep in mind the length requirement. Again, it needs to be 1,000 words and upwards of 1,500. If it's not 1,000, it does not meet word count, and that is going to significantly impact your grade. So please make sure to keep that in mind. Of course, keep in mind exactly what the instructions are. Make sure to read through all of this and really be aware of what you're being asked to do. Make sure you have that clear, strong thesis statement. Make sure you're following MLA guidelines, things like that. Make sure you're doing all the formatting and style things that you need to. Make sure you're having an appropriate tone, no second person, things like that. And make sure, of course, that you're being academically honest, meaning there will be no instances of plagiarism in your writing. Okay, so those are some of the high points for this assignment. Again, if you haven't already taken a look at this, or you haven't taken a look at it in a minute, I would encourage you to go into content, go to the Unit 7 writing assignment, and take a look at it accordingly. Okay. All right. One other thing I want to remind you of is the extra credit discussion board. It is right here at the bottom. And our last topic is, what have you learned by being in this class? I would encourage you all to take advantage of this because it is available as extra credit for this final research paper. It's actually three bonus points added to the research paper grade. So that can be really useful to you all. So do take advantage of this. I'll be collecting these up through the end of the week when I go to submit grades. So make sure that you are taking advantage of this and posting accordingly. If you would like to, of course, you don't have to. And if you have any questions about it, you can, of course, reach out to me. Okay, so a couple of things I do want to bring to your attention and remind you about as you go forward with this research paper. So, of course, I've given you the guidelines. I've kind of gone through all of those things. But now I want to spend just a minute talking about proofreading and editing. So, because this is a very large paper, there's a lot of moving parts to it. There's a lot of things you're going to be discussing and looking at. Again, this is the longest assignment that you'll produce for this class. When you're going through and proofing and editing your work, let me break down those two things for you first of all. So proofreading is where you're looking for big picture items, or big ticket items is the way I like to call it. You're looking to make sure that you have a strong argument, that you have really good supporting evidence, that you have clear topic sentences, that you have all the really big things that you need to have in your assignment. Keep in mind, if you don't have a clear thesis statement, if you don't have evidence, if you don't have topic sentences, if you don't have good paragraph structure, you don't really, in many cases, have a paper. You just often have a lot of ideas that are loosely connected, but don't actually really do what they need to do. So when you're going through and doing proofreading, look for the big picture stuff. And then when you go back to do editing, that's when you're looking for spelling errors, grammatical issues, things like that. Keep in mind all the things that I've been mentioning to you throughout the entire class, some of the different things that you struggle with or that I've pointed out to you. And when you go through and you're doing your editing, look for those, but I would encourage you to do one read through of the paper to look for one issue at a time. So let's say you struggle with comma splices and subject-verb agreement. I'll say those are your two big issues. I would encourage you to do one read through of the paper when you're editing to look at just commas, and then one read through of the paper to look just at your subject-verb agreement. I know that sounds like a lot of work, and again, I know the paper's due tomorrow, but that is what I would really, really encourage you to do, because ultimately, if you try to do one read through to look for everything you struggle with, grammatically speaking, you're going to miss some things, and that can be really really frustrating, especially when you're trying to make sure your paper is as polished as possible. So again, make sure to give yourself time to look for big ticket items, but also give yourself time to look for the smaller things as well. Okay, that's really all I have for you now. I do want to, because this is my last video, I do want to say in closing that it has been a pleasure to work with each and every one of you. I hope that you've learned something throughout this class. I know that English is not everyone's forte. I know not everyone enjoys an English class where you read poetry and read short stories, and of course you've been studying a play in this instance. But I do hope that you've gained something valuable from it. One of the things I want you to keep in mind as you leave this course is that writing is applicable across the board. It really doesn't matter what career you go into or what major you go into. You will have to do some writing. One of the stories I often like to tell is my father-in-law works for a large company, and he works on the line, does really good mechanical work, things that I can't even begin to think of doing. But one of the things that he's often said to my wife and I is that he would really wishes that in high school he had really paid attention in his English classes, because he's like, I struggle to write an email, I struggle to write a memo, I struggle to do a lot of those things. And if I'd really honed in and paid attention to all the things writing related that I didn't think would actually apply to me one day, he's like, I wish I had really paid attention to those then so that I would be better prepared now. So let that be an example to you. And again, as you all are moving throughout the next day or so, please reach out to me if you have any questions. I'll be checking into the course pretty regularly. And of course, I'll be available to answer any of your quick questions for you. All right. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I look forward to seeing these research essays. And again, if you need anything, please reach out. Hope you have a good one.